Hi everybody. I just wanted to come by and make a video. It may not be as short as I want it to be because it includes a lot of information, mostly terms. I'm not really sure how many of these terms may show up on your exam, but it's a possibility that they could show up on the exam. Now here's my disclaimer. This information is coming from a source, LGBT Best Practices Manual for Service Providers, and the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. So this is not my terminology. I did not come up with this. This is from that source. It's actually a book that I got from training. So this is not my content. It's not my material. I did not come up with this. If you are part of the LGBT community and you feel like something that I say is incorrect, or if there's another way or another term to describe whatever it is I'm discussing, please feel free to comment in the comment box and let me and your colleagues know of any updated information that you may have, or just information in general. So please feel free to have open dialogue in the comment section, or if you want to email me, you can do that. You can go to my website, daytodaysocialwork.wix.com/my-site, and there's a box on the home page at the top where you can contact me. So again, these are not my terms. Nothing that I say in this video is meant to offend anyone. If I say anything incorrectly, please correct me, but do so in a tactful manner. Okay, so here are some terms. Again, this is not an all-inclusive list of terms. This is very generic and basic, just some basic terms that may show up on your exam and that are just good to know in general, as a social worker working with the community, the LGBT community. So that's my disclaimer, and then I'm also going to talk about my own experience working with clients in this community. I'm not going to tell any personal stories about my family or anything like that, because I don't think that's relevant to what we're trying to do here on the social work license exam channel. So, or maybe I will, I don't know, because I'm going off the top of my head, I don't know, but those are my disclaimers, and I will tell you some stories about clients, and not stories about their personal lives, but just about my interaction with them in relation to how to approach and how to address people in this community. So let's see if there's anything else I want to get out there before I start on these terms. I'm also going to talk about some do's and don'ts according to this booklet, not according to my own personal opinion. So that's that. Okay. And I am going to read word for word because I don't want anybody to think that these are my words. So the first term is ally, and that's just, of course, we know what an ally is. Someone that's on your side, but it's basically the same thing here. An ally is someone who advocates for and supports members of a community other than their own. Allies reaching across differences to achieve mutual goals. Then we have the term asexual, a person who generally does not feel sexual attraction or desire to any group of people. Asexuality is not the same thing as celibacy. So this is my own opinion. Celibacy is when you have been sexually active and then you choose to abstain from sex for a period of time. So that's what celibacy is. It's not the same thing as being asexual. Then you have bisexual, a person who self-identifies as having an emotional, sexual, and or relational attraction to men and women, and that's also called bi. Then you have cis gender, and cisgender is spelled CISGENDER. Is when an individual's experiences of their own gender matches the sex they were assigned at birth. also known as non-transgender. These terms can be confusing. I've been to several trainings on these terms, and you think that you have a good hold on it, but you sometimes don't. So don't feel overwhelmed by all the terms if you don't get them immediately. So then you have coming out. Coming out is to recognize one's sexual orientation, gender identity, or sex identity, and to be open about it with oneself and with others. So that's coming out. A cross-dresser, a term for people who dress in clothing traditionally or stereotypically worn by another gender, but who generally have no intent to live full-time as a different gender. Therefore, most cross-dressers do not identify as transgender or transsexual. Avoid using the word transvestite, as it is now widely considered an outdated and derogatory term. So we have to be careful as social workers and clinicians and whatever other terms and titles we call ourselves, not to offend our clients. And we may think, oh, well, I just didn't know. Well, you have to educate yourself, just like you do with any other culture or community of people. You have to educate yourself, and you can't use as an excuse that I just didn't know all the time, because you have to continue your education on different cultures and different communities of people. So then we come to the term drag queen, generally used to refer to men who dress as women, often celebrity women, for the purpose of entertaining others at bars, clubs, or other events. Not all drag queens are gay. It is also used as slang, sometimes in a derogatory manner, to refer to transgender women. Avoid using this word towards transgender women. Then you have the term drag king, used to refer to women who dress as men for the purpose of entertaining others at bars, clubs, or other events. Not all drag kings are lesbians. Avoid using this word towards transgender men. Okay, so if you have any questions about either of those, just let me know in the comment box and we can email about it, because I don't want to get everything confused. Okay, so then we have the term gay. Gay is a man who self-identifies as having an emotional, sexual, and or relational attraction to other men. Gay may be used by some women who prefer to use the term over the term lesbian. Then you have gender queer, a term used by some individuals who identify as neither entirely male nor entirely female. Lesbian is a woman who self-identifies as having an emotional, sexual, and or relational attraction to other women. Some lesbians may prefer to identify as gay or as a gay woman. Then you have the term intersex, a general term used for a variety of conditions in which a person is born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that does not seem to fit the typical definitions of male or female. May include a variation of terms of sex chromosomes, external genitalia, internal reproductive system, etc. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, the term hermaphrodite, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I believe that term was used to refer to someone that was born with both male and female reproductive organs. That term is also now classified as derogatory, and we should not use that term. Again, it's hermaphrodite. I'll try to look it up and spell it for you because I can't really pronounce it, but that term is outdated. The term to use is intersex. Let's see. Saying that someone is out refers to varying degrees of being open about one's sexual orientation and or gender identity. Questioning, and the term LGBT can sometimes have a Q on the end, which is LGBTQ. The L is for lesbian, the G is for gay, the B is for bisexual, the T is for transgender, and then the Q is for questioning. Questioning is an individual who may be experiencing lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender feelings, but has not yet identified with their sexual orientation or gender identity. So then we have the term transgender, an umbrella term to refer to all people who do not identify with their assigned gender at birth or with the binary gender system. Some transgender people feel they exist not within one of the two standard gender categories, but rather somewhere in between, beyond or outside those two genders. Okay. Then you have the term transsexual, a term for people whose gender identity is different from their assigned sex at birth. Often transsexual people alter or wish to alter their bodies through hormones or surgery in order to make them match their gender identity. Some consider this an older or overly medicalized term that is less appropriate than transgender unless the individual uses the term to describe themselves. Okay. So that's the first set of terms. Let's see. It's also important to note y'all, I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. It's also important to note the difference between gender and sex. So sex is what you were born with. If you have a penis, then you are male. If you have a vagina, if you were born with a vagina, then you're female. So that's your sex. Your gender, and some people think that gender is socially constructed, is more so if you have masculine or feminine traits. So that's what your gender is as opposed to sex. Sex is biological makeup, and gender, again, is more socially constructed. So you could be feminine or masculine. You could be a man that's feminine or a woman that's masculine. That's your gender. But if you have a penis, then your sex is a male. And if you have a vagina, then your sex is a female. Okay. So that's that. Now, some other terms that we need to be aware of are phobias, terms that deal with phobias and discrimination. So the first term is heterosexism, and that's the assumption that all people are or should be heterosexual. And heterosexual basically means that you're straight, or if you're a female, then you are attracted to males, or if you're a male, then you're attracted to females. And then you have cis-sexism, and that's the assumption that all people are or should be cisgender. And if you remember, cisgender is when your what you were born with at birth, your sex, matches up with your gender identity. Then, of course, we have homophobia, and those are people who are fearful of people that are homosexual. Biphobia, people that are fearful or threatened or uncomfortable around people that are bisexual. And then transphobia is someone who's fearful or hateful towards, discriminates against people that are transgender. Okay, so I mean, these terms, again, these are not all inclusive. You could look these up on your own and get more updated information. There are tons and tons and tons of terms out there that I haven't even included, but these are just like the basic ones that are important to know. Another term is coming out, the process in which a person first acknowledges, accepts, and appreciates his or her sexual orientation or gender identity and begins to share that with others. Let's see what else. Another one that's very important to know is outing. When you out someone, that's exposing someone's sexual orientation as being lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender to others without their permission. In essence, outing them from the closet. I don't know how I feel about the whole closet term. I think that's probably derogatory for some people. Outing someone can have serious employment, economic, safety, religious repercussions in some situations. So those are all the terms I'm going to share, and I just wanted to also talk about some do's and don'ts according to this book. Do's and don'ts for working with those who identify as LGBTQ. Okay. So the first one is, don't make assumptions about someone's gender identity or sexuality. That's very, very, very important, because there's such a broad range and spectrum of terms and identities and preferences and orientations. Never assume, always ask, and you have to be careful how you ask, and you have to be tactful how you ask. So it's very touchy. You always let your client know if you don't know, or you apologize if you think you may have offended the client, but just let them know that you don't know. We don't want to assume or just think that we know it all when we don't, because you may see a female with a very short haircut. She may look like she identifies as a male, but she just may have a short haircut and she just likes her hair that way. So you can't just assume, oh well, she's a lesbian or she's gay. So never make assumptions about someone's gender identity or sexuality. That's the same thing for someone who you might think looks straight. They may be a lesbian or they may be gay. You just never know. I guess depending on the community and groups of people that you work with on a regular basis, some people work exclusively with the LGBTQ community, so they have more experience with how to address certain people in certain situations. But then some people work mostly with a straight population, or who they think are straight population, but we just never want to assume. Do use gender neutral language and inclusive language to open the door to all clients. Inclusive language would be like using the term partner or significant other instead of boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. Ask, are you seeing someone? Are you in a committed relationship? Instead of, do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or are you married? Again, this is coming straight from this book. It's not my own information. Also use gender neutral language. So instead of saying she is going to the doctor tomorrow, say they are going to the doctor tomorrow, or Sarah is going to the doctor tomorrow. So, we don't know if our clients want to be addressed as she or he, so just say they, or use the person's name if it's not a situation of confidentiality. Don't ask invasive questions about someone's body, but do respect people's identity. Okay, so you could be working with a survivor of sexual assault who happens to be a lesbian, and she may not feel comfortable with her breast, and she may not want to address the fact that she has breasts because her gender identity, she identifies more closely with being a male as opposed to a female. So you don't want to talk about breasts in detail, unless you're a doctor and they have different trainings, because they have to use certain medical terms when it comes to doing like rape kits and things like that. But even still, you have to make your client feel safe. Don't talk about body parts and things that might make your client feel uncomfortable. Don't out someone's sexual orientation or transgender status. Do talk to the person before advocating on their behalf. So I've worked in a place where one of my coworkers was going through a gender reassignment, And we received an email about it, and my first thought was, did they get permission from this person to give all of their information out to the whole entire agency? I would think that they did. Hopefully they did, because if they didn't, then, that would have been it would have been cause for a lawsuit, for one, but it also would have been very difficult for that person to come back to work, and now everybody knows their business. But the email was so detailed that I'm pretty sure that this person gave permission, hopefully. So don't out someone, and don't advocate for someone without asking if it's okay. Don't ignore the importance of using the right pronouns. You do use the pronoun that someone asks you to use. When you mess up a pronoun, correct yourself, apologize, and move on. It says, accept that you may mess up. This is part of being a good ally. When you mess up, don't make a huge deal. Don't apologize profusely. Just correct yourself, apologize, and move on. Your focus should instead be on figuring out for yourself how not to make the same mistake again. Don't ignore when others use incorrect pronouns. Instead, you should model the correct pronoun usage. So this is part of the NASW Code of Ethics, where you hold your colleagues and coworkers responsible and accountable, and you help them to help the clients. So if you hear someone else using derogatory terms and phrases, then you, as their colleague, should correct them if you know what you're talking about. Okay. Don't use language like, I'm working with a woman who is really a man, or she says she's a man but she is obviously a woman, or he is not a real woman. Don't use things like that. Do respect an individual's identity and use the terms that someone uses for themselves. Mirror a person's language. So I've been on the phone with a victim of a crime, and he sounded like a male, but he identified as being gay and would refer to himself as a woman. And so it was very confusing. So I had to ask, what would you rather be called? Mr. such and such, Miss such and such, and I guess he just wanted to be called Mr., which is why I'm calling him. So you have to just mirror the language of the victim, or not the victim, I'm sorry, I'm a victim advocate. The client is a better word for social workers. Do speak up when someone makes homophobic, biphobic, transphobic, or heterosexist remarks. Do be aware of your own biases. Do remember, if you know one LGBT person, you know one LGBT person. Treat people as individuals and don't expect a single person to represent an entire community. Oh my gosh, that is the best thing that I've read on here. That not only relates to LGBT community, but to any community. You, just because you know or you're friends with one gay person or one black person or one white person, that one person and their experience does not cover the whole group of people. Let's remember that. Okay. For sake of time, I will end this video here. I have so much in this book that I don't have time to go over. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment box. You can, again, go to my website, daytodaysocialwork.wix.com/my-site. Leave me an email, a comment, or whatever, and I'll respond to you. Most of the time I respond the same day, if not then the next day. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends. And again, if something I have said in this video you find offensive, please let me know. Or if you have more information, or if you need to correct something that I said, please feel free to do so in the comment box, or just send me an email. And I will see you all in the next video.